be going over a guide. 1 second. Had to take a drink, but we'll be going over a guide. I am starting a series where, as you know me, if you want to add me on Epic 7, I am Seto Senpai. I will be going over a guide on the Husbandos, and as you know me, I am a very strict Husbando only user, and I have not used waifus since a year and a half since I've started playing. I have been in this game since I've known the Dizzy and SSB meta. So yeah, I am still playing as of currently. I am a champion player, which, fun fact, I have reached champion only using Husbandos in my current roster. So, for those who are curious about my defense team consists, it sometimes changes depending on how I feel, but I am pretty confident in this team so far. It is Infernal Kawazu, Arbiter Vildred, Violet, and Ron. And for those curious about my Ron build, he is built with a lot of speed, as you can tell. 303 speed. He is on Albastron for the extra effectiveness. I would put him on Symbol of Unity or Silver Rain, but I do not have Silver Rain, and I am using Symbol of Unity on someone else as of currently. For the rolls, these two have quite average speed rolls, but these rolled quite amazingly, I will admit. I honestly just got very lucky with the rolls, but yes, my roster right now consists of pretty much the main Husbandos. You got Adventure Raz, I do have Chaos Inquisitor built, Kayron, Cowrick, Crow, on your standard high HP build. You already saw Ron. My Mort is on Revenge set, and Revenge set's kind of fun to play around with, I won't lie. Violet is on Penetration set, which Penetration is a huge deal. This boot though, I want to improve this boot. It could be better. This is my Pavel build. I use Pavel quite a lot in my cleave comps. This is my 212 effect resistance Adley. He is really good against Cerises. He's also able to cut C-Doms at some point if he gets enough CR. He is very niche. He requires a lot of effect resist to be viable. He is also even good against AOL sometimes. He is able to S3. If I had already procced AOL's S2, Adley will S3 and reset everyone. And if an enemy kills one of my teammates, he will reset S3 and he'll get another chance to S3, which is kind of cool. Basar is on your standard build. My Ray could be better, but it's Ray. I don't use Ray that often. He's honestly only used for PvE content. Here is my Captain Ricorous, built on Revenge set immunity with El's Fist. I am quite proud of my build with him. This is my General Purgus. He is on my Wyvern team, so he is just built with a bunch of bulk. This is my Ambitious Tywin build. He is just built with a lot of effectiveness and then Holy Sacrifice. Watcher Shuri is built like a Watcher Shuri. Here is my Infernal Kawazu build. I actually received Infernal Kawazu 2 days ago, and I have been having a lot of fun with him. I will say my only pet peeve is I really want to change his artifact to Border Coin, but I have not pulled the Border Coin. But hopefully I will someday. He is on a pretty standard build. I will say he is very stat hungry when it comes to building him. He needs speed, some bulk, a lot of attack, and you will need to squeeze in that effectiveness. It will come in handy. At least 30 to 40. It will come in handy. We reach Mediator Cowrick. With his new buff, I will say he is really good against the Angel of Light Angelica. I highly recommend if you have this unit. I would not say he's a must pull, but he is definitely a really good pull. He counters the current meta very, very effectively. And I built him as a bruiser. He has some damage, but he is mainly there to get rid of debuffs. This is kind of fun to use. I have been able to use S3 3 times in a row in an RTA battle thanks to this artifact. So would I say it's a necessary artifact? No, but it's a very fun artifact to play around with. Here is my Strauze build. He is on a Zercomet just for the extra combat readiness push. He is on a pretty standard build, I will admit. Troublemaker Crozet is very good. He is a good jack of all. He protects a unit. He has good damage mitigation. Can stun a lot of units with the counters. My only pet peeve about a Troublemaker is that he does not. His built-in Aureus is only for the unit in the back, not for all damage. But other than that, he is a really good unit. I would say he is a must build, but there are far better knights than him that do his job way better. But as a Husbando only user, you work with what you have. Arbiter Vildred is on a very, he's on your average full DPS, not on counter. When he procs Gab, it goes, he pops off. Assassin said he is a good counter to Angel of Light Angelica. This is my build for him. He's on Portrait of the Saviors. Closer Charles, he is not built on sub DPS. I have him on a fast build, just in case I don't have an opener. He is still able to S3. If there's not any cleavers on the other team, it's just a bunch of bruisers. It gives Strauze, an opportunity to kill someone because he gets pushed out. I would give him DPS, but I don't have that gear right now. This is my Remnant Violet build. I am quite proud of it. He has good DPS. I had to sacrifice speed for more HP because he used to only have 9,000 HP, but like 230 speed. But I found that he died way too quickly, so I believe that having more health was a lot better. Champion Zerato, he is on a very good build. Your standard bruiser with lifesteal crit. And that is most of my builds for now. I will now get into explaining the different types of comps you can use when it comes to PvP. Now, if you are doing what I am doing, this is the video for you. If you use waifus, you can leave because waifus, they're the meta. I do not use waifus, so we have to work around them. So as you can see, this team here, they CC'd me with Angel of Light. Oh, interesting. They used ML Celine, Crow, and made Chloe. So I would say my life is a bit easier compared to yours because there are some units that I use countering the meta that you probably don't even have. Like ML Kawazu is one of them. I was really excited when I pulled him because he was a great addition to my roster. So we're going to be going over units you most likely have, but the issue with that is since we're only going over Husbandos you could possibly have, you need to keep in mind that the comps that we're building can be changed. You can change them because you're not going to have RGB only. You're going to have some moonlights. So let's get started with Pavel. I have used Pavel since release, even before his buff. He is a good opener. He is very versatile when it comes to if you want to cleave. You can build him super fast. You can build him like 290. A lot of crit damage, crit chance, speed, as much attack as possible. But as of the current meta, he does not work against Angel of Light Angelica or most of the fire units like Mercedes. I would say Mercedes is quite an interesting unit because her artifact counters regardless because his skill cannot be countered. You also got units like Rimuru, who is heavily disruptive to Pavel. So I would say Pavel had a shining moment in RTA and Arena for a time being. but then Rimuru came out. He is still good. Pavel, I would say, is very good for teams that do not have units that can disrupt him. Which, you know, it's like, oh, but that's the point. It's more of so. Pavel is really good in situations where it favors him. By that I mean situations where, you know, you get units like Rimuru where you S2, you're dead because he gets S. You know, Rimuru is gonna S2, push himself up, and then S3 someone, and then they're dead. So Pavel is a very good pick. If you are a cleaver, I would recommend pulling him. He is an RGB hero, so you can pull him on a standard banner, or you can pull him in daily summons. You could pull him anywhere. He's pretty good. He is also very self-sustaining. He gives increased attack to himself before even using his S2. Does not trigger counter attacks, and you can S3 someone. He is a very good unit to knock out a important unit on the other enemy team. The artifact I have him on is Air to Surface Missile Misha. And before you ask why is that, well, I heavily like the hit chance and critical damage increase. And the artifact I have him on right now is Skill Nullifier on S3. I sometimes change it to giving S2 to someone else when it comes, you know, to like Guild War. But for usually, I like using Skill Nullifier because if I am up against a Violet, it gives Pavel a good chance to get a second shot at Violet. So, we're going to go to Arbiter Vildred. Alright, everyone has him. You know, you got the free Moonlight selection. Now, Arbiter Vildred is a very interesting case because Arbiter Vildred has been good since release. He's gotten his nerfs, he's gotten his fair share of buffs and nerfs. But overall, he is a very good unit to use almost anywhere. He's even a PvP and a PvE god. He makes your life heavily easier. You know, S3, you know, it gives a very nice debuff, decrease hit chance. You know, more RNG on the enemy side. Its skill resets when he kills someone. S1 decreases combat readiness, and you know his main attraction is his revive. He comes back with full focus and has a chance to, if you have him on Alexa's back, it has a chance to get greater attack buff. He is an overall great unit. I would highly recommend using him. If you have pulled for Spectre Tenebria, that was not a bad pick. I am not judging. But if we're talking overall versatility, Arbiter Vildred definitely takes the cake because he helps you in almost any situation. My bad. Sorry, I went to check Discord. Now, other units. Basar, yes. Basar is a very special case. And I've been saying that for a lot of units, but Basar has been heavily nerfed because of the new meta. You got Bellion, Angel of Light Angelica, you know, all these units that just practically make him useless because there's no point in unbuffable if it's just going to be cleansed. Now, if you're one of the people like me who pre-ban Angel of Light Angelica, then I could see you using him. But then again, you have him on Target Hells for Soulburn, Bellion. So my recommendations for Basar is building him with a high effectiveness and speed, you know, the Yuri standard build, and draft him against units like FCC or Meet Chloe. Let's say they don't draft Bellion. You can Soulburn S3, push back their team, and hopefully you have a unit that can lock down a May Chloe before she gets the revive. That is my suggestion. Basar is still a good unit. Is he meta? No, he is not meta anymore. He was actually very meta at like some point in time. I would recommend using him if you have him, but he is not a must pull. Unless you have DJ Basar and you want imprints, that's you. That's on you. It's none of my business. Now, we move on to Violet. Now, Violet, do I even need to explain Violet? He is one of the best coin flips you'll ever have in the game. He'll either favor you, or he'll either make you really disappointed and want to bench him. But when we get into the logistics into it. Violet is a really good unit. He has passive evasion as long as he has S3, cleanse, perception, S1 decrease attack, and combat readiness increase. Gets double the amount of focus. This unit, Violet, is a hell of a goddamn unit. You can build him in almost any way and he'll work. Like, you cannot mess up building this unit. He can be built on almost anything and he will be very good. My most recommended build is lifesteal and crit, lifesteal immunity, lifesteal penetration. Penetration has been working really well for me because that penetration matters a lot when you're fighting against stuff like knight heroes who have a lot of defense. So it just makes that small little difference in guaranteeing a kill before Violet goes down. Vildred. Now, Vildred is definitely a good cleave unit. As he got new exclusive equipment, he gets more combat readiness. I would recommend using that one. He is not meant to be used as a first turn, but he is definitely used to help a first turn with his current speed imprints. I would recommend only imprinting Vildred when you have a fully imprinted Arbiter Vildred, because you want more DPS on your Arbiter Vildred. Cleaving, as of now, has become harder, so I would not say cleaving is a high priority, but cleaving is definitely nice. I would recommend going Bruiser as of the current meta, because the meta heavily punishes cleavers. You can't do much without a counter attack or anything. Now let's get into Ron. Ron was one of the recent banners, so you probably most definitely have him. He is a very interesting case because he is heavily punished by the meta, but is still managing to be very good. Because his S2 grants immunity to all allies for 2 turns, and it increases his own attack. Extra turn, S3 gives Stigma and decrease attack and skill nullifier to himself. Stigma is a very big deal when you are up against units like General Purgus, a Ravi, any units that give themselves CR or are bruisers. They lose out on healing as well. Defense break is also a really big deal because it's one of the most important debuffs in this game. Heavily increases your DPS by a long shot. I would recommend building him with a full speed and maybe hit. If you want him DPS, you can go for that, but he is not meant to do a lot of damage. He is only meant to be an opener. He's opening up for your other units to come in to finish the job. That is also why he is, really fast. He is here to set up Stigma, defense break, dispel buffs, and then, he's just there in the back line now. He's a... Although units that do counter him are Rem, most definitely. Rem, Politis, units that are just generally faster than him. Violet heavily counters him. Bellion heavily counters him because his S3 is not uncounterable, so his S3 can get countered. But we're gonna move on to Crow now. I can't stress this enough. Crow is a must build. He is a must build. He is really good in almost any situation. You can fit him in any comp and he will always be good. He hasn't even been nerfed or buffed. He has been stayed the same since his release, which is honestly one of the coolest things to me. Now, the way you want to build Crow is you want to build him with a lot of HP and build him with some effect resist if you can. As you can see, I'm lacking in some... Excuse me. I am lacking in some effect resist, but it's alright, he makes up for it in his high HP and defense. This I would say is a very standard build. Another standard build is like 23k HP, 1.4k defense, 180, 190 speed, and then 100 effect resist. That is a highly good Crow. His S3 is proportional to his lost HP, so he is also very good at nuking someone at low HP, like Rels, Chloe's, and he is definitely a good counter pick against Violet, because Violet AI will always attack Crow if he is your only water unit in your roster. So yes, Crow is a very good pick. He also decreases combat readiness of an enemy and increases defense of his allies. which is a big deal. He's going to sustain your team for a good while. So we're going to move on to Cowrick. Now Cowrick, I would say you can build him in almost any way. My most recommended build is to build him really fast, 280 speed, and you can even scratch off crit damage or attack. That's how I had him built, but you know, I stripped some of his gear for Ron and Assassin Sid. But yes, he's a good disruptor. If he gets first turn, he will actually make someone unable to use their abilities, because he has increased skill cooldowns by 1 turn. But he can also do it twice, so it has a chance to do it once or twice. S3 gives him defense penetration and silence, increases his own attack, which is his exclusive equipment. He is also a very well target hell holder. His S2 is I'll say his shining factor is his S2, which gives him speed and stealth at the same time. So he will get stealth, he'll have speed buff, he'll be coming down the combat readiness bar, and then he'll S3, which is what I think they were going for. Now, Kayron has kind of fallen out of meta due to the amount of counters he has. His biggest counter is Dispel, Unbuffable, you know, just every CC, like every crowd control, and every, like the book. But my build, I would not recommend copying my build. Mine is on Lifesteal, but that is only because I've had fun with Lifesteal. The extra sustain is definitely very nice. He's a good bruiser because, you know, it guarantees that like a grass unit won't one-shot him when he's at low HP. He gets a lot of HP back after he S1s. I would say you can build him an opener because he has very high base speed. You can build him an opener. You can build him as, you know, the standard speed immunity. Give him as much DPS as possible. Build him on counter. Counter is also a very good one because he has, you know, immortality from his passive. Adventurer Raz, need I say more? He is our goated pro tag. Screw Aiden. Hashtag Raz is the ultimate MC. He has very good utility. He gives AoE defense buff, heals himself. S2 is a dual attack and gives immunity to his allies. He is a good Aureus holder. I would say the standard build is speed immunity, like every other A-Raz. He is good for almost anything, and as of now, he is not as good as he was in PvP in the earlier days of his prime, but he is still a good pick against, you know, anything. He's a good PvE unit as well, especially for expeditions. But this is my current build for him. I just have to reforge this boot for him, and he'll probably be set for now. Whew. But yeah, that covers most of my current units that are obtainable. So we move on to MLs. So if we move on to MLs, which if you are not ready for the MLs, you can, you know, not listen or something. General Purgus is definitely a really good pick. He is used for counter cleaving, because a cleaver usually has a lot of AoEs. He will push the team up and then grant a attack buff to everyone and then stun 2 random enemies, which is definitely heavy. Like, this dude is very packed with utility. He can be used for PvP and PvE. As you know, I use him for Wyvern. Ambitious Tywin is heavily good against light CCers. Like, you know, he's good to cleanse that one debuff. Because let's say an Arbiter Vildred takes the first turn, he'll cleanse the decreased hit chance debuff, and then your team can come in, you know, unscathed with debuffs to holy hell. I would say the most standard build for him is speed immunity. Before you say, but why give him immunity if he has a cleansing ability? Well, that's because you don't want him to be stunned on like the first turn by a Cerise. Otherwise, he'd become useless. You want to pop off that S3 so that you heavily crowd control their team. And before you say like there's no point in giving him immunity if he's just gonna cleanse it, well, another thing you have to keep in mind is since his buff, his cleanse can be it cleanses everyone as long as he's attacked. So I would say immunity is definitely good on him. It adds just another layer of protection for your units. Immunity is almost good on anyone besides like Champion Zerato, but Watcher Shuri is probably, you know, need I say more? He's just there to one-shot someone. He's also just there for the Sashi Itana's combat readiness push-up. Build him as your average DPS. You can even build him slow. I would not recommend that. But, you know, give him some speed, and he's practically set for your team. He's good for that speed imprint. Inferno Kawazu, like I've said before, he is a good counter pick. He is not a good first pick. He is good against people who have a lot of AoEs on their team. He punishes you for AoEing. I do need to get his imprint though, so he gets more damage out of his S3. But yeah, I would say artifact wise, use him on Border Coin. I just have him on Junkyard Dog because I do not have Border Coin. Border Coin is the best option for him, or Uberius's Tooth. I also do not have Uberius's Tooth. But yes, this is the most standard build for him. You can even build him on counter, but if you build him on counter, most definitely you need immunity. I just have him on immunity because I really like immunity. A Mediator Coward, you know, you can honestly build him like anything. You know, build him really tanky, build him as a bruiser. He works either way because he's not going to get silenced unless the silence is 2-turn silence or 2-turn sleep, 2-turn stun, etc. So this is probably the most standard build for him. If you want him a bruiser, his buff definitely made him very good. So yeah, Straze, I think I've already said, he is practically good for one-shotting tanks. So I had a brain fart. He is definitely good against tanks that are like FCC, Crow. He just guarantee one-shots the tank as long as you have more attack and you have enough DPS on yourself for that. I would say speed immunity is the most standard build for him. Azure Comet is very good. Portrait of the Saviors is... Oh, that's the train. Portrait of the Saviors is also really good. Symbol of Unity is also really good. You can't really mess up Straze's build. He is very versatile. My apologies. He is very good. You know, he's versatile. He also... If he's not there to kill a tank, he's also just a good DPS. I would say he's just stat hungry when it comes to building him, but when you have him built, he's pretty good. Arbiter Vildred, I don't need to explain again, but that is probably covering most of the MOs I have built and I use. So when we dive into team compositions, you need to keep in mind, you need to understand what you're going for and how you're going for it. You need to make sure you have the units for it as well. My suggestion for you is having one of everything. Have a bruiser in there. Have a utility. Have a support unit. Have a reviver. Have something, you know. But there's no male revivers, so we stick to what we have. So Inferno Kawazu is a good cleave disruptor. He's going, if someone AoEs, he's going to cut in. He's going to kill someone. That is the whole point. Another good replacement, Arbiter Vildred. Another good counter cleave is Assassin Sid. He is a speed threat. Another good counter cleave is Violet. Violet's very good against that. Kayron, I would say is good, but you know, you get Angel of Light Angelica. Another good counter cleave is General Purgus as a utility. So let's put a team come together and I will explain how it will probably turn out. Here is what this team comp basically is. So everyone, when they go into arena, their first thought is, can I cleave this team? Because it's the quick and the easiest and the most simplest one to do. They go, okay, let's see this team comp. So, can they cleave it? Most likely not. And before you say, why is that? General Purgus is definitely not, you don't want to cleave against General Purgus. You see a General Purgus, is your first instinct to cleave them? Probably not. And then you look at Assassin Sid, you're like, oh, okay, they also have a speed threat. That is definitely, they're not going to want to cleave you when, even if they bring cleavers, the team is going to get pushed out by General Purgus. And then, let's say, even if they outspeed, if they AoE, Assassin Sid's going to take his turn. If they AoE, oh shit, Inferno Kawazu is going to S2, and then he's probably going to pop someone with his S3. Well then, Violet. What's Violet there for? He is there as a coin flip. He is there to disrupt any other remaining cleavers. Let's say they try to cleave and they manage to take out all 3 of these units. Well, they still have a Violet to deal with, and we all know Violet is self-sustaining. He will probably either turn the tables against him, or he will lose, and then I lose my defense team. But this is what you're looking for. You want one of everything. Do we have a speed threat? Yes, Assassin Sid. Do we have a utility? General Purgus. Do we have an anti-cleaver? Inferno Kawazu and Violet. So we have almost one of everything. Now, we're going to put up another team. Alright, so let's say you're like me. You want to cleave, but you also want your defense team to be a cleave. So, here's what you can do. And do we have a... Let's ask these questions to yourselves once more. Do we have utility? We have Ron, Ambitious Tywin. Ron gives defense break and stigma to the other team. Ambitious Tywin helps a little bit of helps the enemy, helps our team from getting CC'd heavily. Do we have anti-cleave? Arbiter Vildred. Who are good speed threats? Pavel and Ron. They're the speed threats. They're going to have to either outspeed or they're going to lose the speed contest. So Ron is going to S3. Everyone's going to either be defense broken or we get 15%. We all know that. So Ron's going to go first. Gives everyone immunity. So everyone's protected by immunity from Politis. And then he's going to S3. Everyone's going to have stigma or defense break. Pavel's going to S2. And let's say some units live the S2. Well, if they kill Arbiter Vildred, they're going to have to deal with his S3. And then, etc., etc. So now we're going to build a bruiser comp. Because I think you guys have been probably getting mad. Hey, you're only using cleavers. Alright, so we're going to use bruisers. Now, these are teams I'm making up at the top of my head. But let's ask ourselves some questions now. Crow is good to keep sustained to your team with defense buff. Am I correct? Violet is a good coin flipper. He decides whether or not he wants to evade or not. Inferno Kawazu is a good anti-cleave. Remnant Violet, you might be asking, what is Remnant Violet there for? Well, as we all know, Remnant Violet works similarly to Violet, where he will counter with his S3 with given enough focus. He also works based off evasion as well. So they will either have to hit Violet or Rylet, which leaves them to, alright, so I have to hit Crow or Inferno Kawazu. So it's hard to make a defense team for Arena, because you also need to keep in mind that when you're making your defense team, the enemy team has ways to counter your defense team, because they're choosing. They get to choose, alright, so how can I counter their team? Because they have that extra step. They have that extra advantage over you, because they have time to make a team around yours. So that is why I'm heavily recommending you to build team comps that are able to counter different types of people. That is why I say, does your team have utility? Does your team have a speed contester? Does your team have an anti-cleaver? These are questions you should be asking yourself before you make your team. You can't just add your team full of your strongest units, because how do you know they work well together? What if all your strongest units are knight characters? What if all your units are mage characters? So these are questions you should be asking yourselves before you make your team comps. So if we dive in deeper, okay, let's make a different cleave comp. Let's make a different bruiser team. So let's say we use Ambitious Tywin for utility. and we use General Purgus as another utility. So we have two different utilities. We have a cleanser, Infernal Kawazu as a counter cleave, General Purgus as a counter cleaver and a utility, and then Violet's there as good DPS and a counter cleaver. This team right here looks pretty toxic in itself because you can't AoE. Excuse me. You can't AoE. You have to deal with Violet. You have to make counters around them. You have two knights, so even if you Straze it, you still have a knight to deal with. Well, not a knight, but two high HP units. Yeah, this team here, it all depends on how you are aiming or what units you have available as well. So you probably don't even have like these MO 5 stars that I have at hand. So for your sakes, I will use RGB heroes to build a team because I've been using an awful lot of MOs. So let's remove all our MOs. Let's just remove them entirely. We're only going to use RGB heroes. So let's build a cleave comp using only my RGB heroes. Now, this team isn't that well. I would say this team is not that, not that good, but it consists of units that you can use. So we have Basar, a good utility. He will push back the team if they have like FCC or anything. He gets rid of their barriers and their immunities. Cowrick is good for disruption. He will S2 someone. Ron will, always take first turn and defense break everyone, if he does that at least. And Pablo will always S2 first and do a lot of AoE damage. So let's get into bruising. We're gonna use RGB heroes only to make a bruiser defense team. So let's say we use Crow. Crow is definitely good. He's good in almost any comp. Let's be real here. Violet, is need I say more? He is forced to be wrecking Kayron. So now we have a bruiser, and because the way I build Kayron, at least he is a good bruiser and a good DPS. Mort has good disruption. If you hit him, he has a chance to counter. Proc is S2. He also has injury on his S3, which is also very good, and defense break on his S1. So this team here, although not optimized, I think I could see it getting some wins done in there. But let's say you're up against Angel of Light Angelica, or you're scared of Angel of Light Angelica. Well, replace Mort with Ray, or any cleanser of the sort. And let's say your team isn't doing that well. You can always optimize it, use different units. I am not big on defense teams, which is why I am sort of trying my best to create these teams. Because when you're limited to Husbandos, you also limit yourself from using meta waifus. So you work around with what you have. That is why it's important that you keep in mind the 3 simple questions I gave out. Does your defense have utility? Does your defense have a speed contester? And does your defense have an anti-cleaver? When you have those 3 crossed out, I'd say you have a pretty standard team. And if we look at my team for my defense team in Arena, it is not the best, but it has been gaining me some wins. It is Infernal Kawazu, Arbiter Vildred, and Violet with Ron. The idea here is Ron goes first, gives everyone immunity. S3s, everyone's defense broken at this point. Arbiter Vildred will S3, do a lot of damage. Violet's just there to be Violet. Infernal Kawazu is just there as an AoE threat in case anyone is gonna bring AoE. They'll have to deal with Infernal Kawazu. So that concludes my talk about PvP guiding when it comes to the Way of Husbandos. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I have been talking for over an hour, but I will say, if you do follow my footsteps, and I will say with full confidence that I am the first Husbando only user to reach champion who has only been using Husbandos for almost 2 years. Can you believe that? I've done this for almost 2 years. I should retire at some point. I think I should sell my account at some point. But yeah, that will conclude my guide to the Husbando way. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I will say one of my biggest advices I can give you is when it comes down to gear, do not give up on gear so easily. Keep hunting, keep getting materials, keep crafting, keep converting. You're gonna get that gear at some point. I know speed gear is hard to come across these days, but as long as you keep going, you know, you're going to lose gold. It's bound to happen, but you'll get the speed gear, is what I'm saying. And hey, it's okay to use units that have high base speed as your openers, because it's easier to get them at higher speeds. You know, it's natural. Don't be too upset at yourself. And do keep in mind, do not be disappointed that you're not as good as I am. Not to sound cocky. I mean that in a good manner. Don't be disappointed at my units because they're, you know, maybe you think, I wish my gear was as good as his. Just keep going. You know, I'm sure you'll get there someday. You're not going to be champion in a matter of the next day. You know, gotcha is gotcha. So you need to keep that in mind as well. So before we conclude today's episode, I shall do an arena match because for some reason my defense team has actually been doing pretty well. And I'm a little bored. So I might as well conclude something with a little something special. But I'll say this team is probably pretty good. Also, before we conclude, how is my volume? Is my volume good? Am I too low? Is my music too loud? Or have I been speaking fine this entire time? Alright, we get that. Let's go for Angel of Light. Oof, we were so close to killing her, actually. Should we end? Yeah, let's just... We don't want to S3. We don't want to S3 yet. Well, okay, it was a tanky AOL.
You'll be so much more useful once you're dead.
Alright, we got S3. Alright, thank you. Okay, so she is on injury. Okay. I don't want to risk proccing Rem's counter, so I'm going to hit her. So I'm going to finish her off. But we get countered anyway, so I guess it didn't matter. Oh, that's a lot of injury. Ooh, don't stun me. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't kill Violet, even on this. Ooh, okay, we're still alive. Politis. Okay, she does have her S2 ready.
It is my job to restore balance. Move or die.
I want to get rid of this Politis. Oof. Ooh, don't kill my Violet. Ah. Oh, are we alive? We're alive. Oh, we're alive. I honestly thought I was dead. Don't Elbrus me, actually. Okay, she's dead by the burn. Okay, we counter. So let's S2 here. Yeah, S2 here. I'll say S3.
Don't chicken out.
We just need as much damage as possible on her. So she's gonna S1. Okay, we get the dodge. Okay. And I think this is it. I think that's GG. Alright. Penetration set doing the work here. And that concludes today. I hope everyone enjoyed today. I would say the next episode shall be PvE. Do you think that's a good one? PvE. Should we go PvE or should we go RTA? As in how to counter pick RTA. How to do RTA with Husbandos only. Or should we do the Husbando PvE guide? And by that I will showcase my hunt teams is what I mean. Because I think everyone's probably curious about how my hunt teams are. So, yep, that is it for today. Since I am posting this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Follow my Twitch, where I stream once in a blue goddamn moon. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye. Nah!